Hello, and welcome to LURK, the Insomnia Files. If you're awake right now, staring into the dark while the rest of the world sleeps, you're in the right place. Many people listen to these stories to relax. Others listen because sleep refuses to come. Before we begin, leave a comment and tell me where you're listening from tonight. A bedroom, a car, a quiet house that doesn't feel as empty as it should. If these stories speak to you, make sure you like the video and subscribe. To LURK, the Insomnia Files. Now get comfortable, lower the lights, take a slow breath, and let's open tonight's file. Back in the summer of 2008, my best friend Jackson and I were 10 years old, while our parents stayed glued to the television, worrying about money, jobs, and something called a recession. We were obsessed with one thing only: the new Batman movie that everyone wouldn't shut up about. School was still a few weeks away, and to us, that meant freedom. Long days, scraped knees, warm nights, and no responsibilities. We spent almost all of our time outside. Anything was better than sitting indoors, listening to adults argue about politics or bills they couldn't pay. Jackson and I both had Nintendo DS consoles, and we treated them like priceless treasure. We played constantly. You could usually find us wandering through downtown Hilltop, trading Pokemon, hunting for nickel cans, and spending our change on gas station candy and slushies. I'm pretty sure the only reason I learned to wash my hands properly was because it was impossible to play with sticky fingers. It was a good summer. Some days we'd walk down by the river just to mess with the Girl Scouts before they reached their campground. We'd hide in bushes, make animal noises, and laugh as they screamed and ran. Looking back, it was cruel, but we were kids, and boredom makes you dumb. One afternoon, we were heading back from the campground. There were no scouts there that day, so we wandered around instead, poking through things they'd left behind. The tool shed was locked, and there was nothing fun to mess with. That's when Jackson spotted something on the ground. It was a hairpin, pink plastic, shaped like a flower, with a blue sunflower glued to it. "I bet this is Melody's," Jackson said, squinting at it. "Boy, I think there's a blonde hair stuck to it." "No way," I replied. "Her hair's too short. It's probably Lynn's. Lynn's hair is curly. This one's straight." He thought for a second, then stuck out his hand. "Bet. If it's Melody's, you can't use Luxray anymore," he said. "And if it's Lynn's, you can't use Garchomp." "Deal." We shook on it, knowing full well we'd forget about it in a few days. Still, it felt important at the time. That Garchomp had been destroying me all summer. We followed the river back toward town. About halfway there, we heard something ahead of us, high-pitched yipping like puppies crying. We looked downriver and saw what looked like a group of coyotes crossing the water. One adult, 5 small pups. The adult coyote was pacing back and forth, crying and howling toward one of the smaller ones. All of them crossed the river except one. That one sat on a stone in the water, completely still, staring straight ahead. It wasn't crying. It wasn't shaking. It just sat there. Jackson raised a finger, telling me to stay quiet. We crept closer, but even with all our care, we spooked them. The adult coyote ran off into the brush, the pups following close behind, all except one. "You think it's sick?" I whispered. "Maybe it's dead," Jackson said. "It's not moving." "No, look, it blinked." It had blinked. It just sat there, calm, almost relaxed. We waited for a while to see if the mother would come back. She never did. Curiosity got the better of us. We were close enough to poke it with a stick, but we didn't. The pup looked healthy, clean fur, bright eyes, slow, steady breathing. It stared directly at me, or like it was trying to figure out what kind of animal I was supposed to be. Then it stood up, on its hind legs. "Jesus," Jackson whispered. "That's adorable." "Why is it standing?" I asked. "Who cares? It's cute." "But coyotes don't do that." Jackson shrugged, still smiling. Maybe she thinks she's people. He took the pink hairpin, slipped off his shoes, and stepped carefully into the river. Slowly, gently, he clipped the hairpin onto the pup's ear. "Look," he said proudly, "she's the prettiest girl in the world." That's when the coyote reacted. She dropped down on all fours, spun in a circle, panting happily, making excited little noises. We spent the entire day with her. At first, we searched for her mother, but it became clear she wasn't coming back. The pup followed us everywhere. We shared snacks, talked to her, tried to teach her tricks. Neither of us had pets, so this felt like a miracle. A free dog. We knew we couldn't take her home. Our parents were stressed enough already. My mom had lost her job, though I didn't know it yet. Jackson's parents were barely keeping their hardware store open. Bringing home a wild animal wasn't going to help, so we compromised. We fed her everything we had. She loved people food. She followed us around, sometimes standing up on her hind legs, trying to copy how we walked. She stumbled a lot, and every time she did, she made a little yipping sound that made us laugh. Jackson started carrying her around in his hoodie. She liked sleeping there. We made her a nest behind a dumpster near an abandoned sporting goods store. We stuffed Jackson's hoodie into my backpack to make it soft. "Mom will be back in the morning," I whispered to her. She yelped and tilted her head. "Do you understand me?" I asked quietly. She wagged her tail. For the next few days, that coyote was our entire world. We named her Jessica, mostly because both of us had crushes on actresses named Jessica, Jessie Pup. She kept the hairpin in her ear, never tried to remove it. She was neat, picky, and got annoyed if you messed up her fur. She acted more like a person than an animal. She learned tricks fast, too fast, sit, spin, even speak. One day, Jackson dangled beef jerky in front of her. "Speak." She stood up, perfectly balanced. When she made a sound, it wasn't a bark. It was like a cough, then a groan. I leaned closer. "Go on, Jessie. Speak." She adjusted her head, opened her mouth, and let out a sound that made my stomach drop. It sounded like, "Hello." Jackson went crazy after that. He tried teaching her words. Sometimes it sounded like nonsense. Sometimes it didn't. She got a new nest at the campground. We brought her leftovers. She tried eating with her paws, frustrated that they didn't work like hands. Jackson spoon-fed her. But something was wrong. She watched Jackson when his back was turned. She stood too confidently. It stopped looking like a trick. One day, Jessie got sick. Her fur started falling out. She slept constantly. Jackson stayed with her all day, holding her. I went back to the river where we found her. That spot felt wrong, silent, empty. Jessie never got better. Then she disappeared. A week later, my mom found fur under my bed. A lot of it, and my backpack. I cleaned my room, but I knew. Jessie had been there. Jackson admitted he'd seen her the night before. She had no fur left. Her face was wrong. We went to the vet, Mario. He listened. He got scared. He called hunters. By nightfall, trucks filled the street. Dead coyotes lay in the back. Jackson said she wasn't there. That night, Jackson slept over. We heard scratching at the door, then footsteps, then the attic. Jackson hid under the bed. She was there with him. Her face was half human, half animal. Yellow eyes, hair where fur shouldn't be. She smiled and said in a broken voice, "Prettiest girl." What happened next ruined our family forever. My dad lost fingers, and my mom was bitten. Jessie escaped through the window. She still had the hairpin. 20 years later, Jackson sent me a photo from Hilltop's 4th of July festival. In the corner of the picture was a woman, short, beautiful, long brown hair, yellow eyes, and a pink hairpin with a blue sunflower. If I had chosen a different bathroom that day, I might not even remember what happened. I think about that a lot. How small choices split life into different versions. A few steps left or right, one door instead of another, and everything changes. If I hadn't gone into that bathroom, I would never have met him. The man who was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The man I still see when I close my eyes. I'm writing this because I need to get it out of me. I need to say it somewhere, even if no one knows who I am. Anonymity makes honesty easier. Until that day, my life at the university was quiet and ordinary. Classes, friends, small routines. I had secrets, of course, but nothing dangerous. Just things I kept to myself. Things I hid carefully. Every evening around 6, I would leave my friends or my girlfriend with some excuse. Then homework, a headache, a shift at work. Then I would hurry to a forgotten bathroom on the 2nd floor of the Faculty of Humanities. The administration had stopped caring about it years ago. It was half abandoned, ignored, avoided. That's why I used it. The bathroom was disgusting. The smell hit you first. Strong and heavy, a mix of old urine, rot, and something sour. The floors were sticky. The toilets were coated in white crust from years of neglect. Pipes leaked constantly, drip after drip, echoing through the room. The walls were covered in graffiti, drawings, insults, crude jokes, and phone numbers written in shaky ink. Some of the stains climbed so high they reached the ceiling. The wooden entrance door was old and swollen from moisture. It could lock from both sides, but it often jammed. That most people took one look inside and walked away. That made it perfect for me. I never went in without checking the hallway first. I always looked both ways. I couldn't risk being seen. Being exposed like that would have destroyed my social life. Still, none of the filth scared me. I worked at a dessert shop, crawling with insects. Compared to that, this bathroom was nothing. I'd met all kinds of people in places like that. Some encounters were awkward but harmless. Some were even good. A few were uncomfortable, but I'd always managed to leave. I thought I knew how to read people. I thought I knew when something felt wrong. I was wrong. That day started like any other. I was already inside when I heard the door creak open. It closed with a dull thud. I heard fumbling near the lock, like someone struggling with it. I almost stepped out to see what was happening, but then I heard footsteps. When I saw him, my mind went blank. He was tall, so tall that I could see his head and shoulders over the divider between the urinals. He looked unreal, like a statue carved from white marble. Blonde hair, styled perfectly, pale skin without a single mark. His face was sharp and fine, almost delicate. His eyes were bright blue, intense, framed by dark lashes that made them look lined with makeup. He was too handsome, so much that it crossed into something strange, like someone designed him instead of born him. He didn't belong there. The filth, the smell, the decay. It all seemed to avoid him. He stood out, like something clean dropped into something rotten. His clothes were strange, too. Dark brown pants, a beige long-sleeved shirt buttoned all the way to the neck, the black fingerless gloves. Almost all his skin was covered. It was hot that evening. too hot for clothes like that. He didn't look like a student. He seemed older than me, maybe by 10 years. And yet the moment I saw him, I felt like I knew him, like I had seen him before in a dream or a memory I couldn't reach. I was at the last urinal. He took the first. We stood there in silence, pretending not to notice each other. My heart was beating too fast. Slowly I turned my head toward him. He was already looking at me. Heat rushed through my body. Sweat formed on my back and neck. He smiled, calm and warm, like he was greeting an old friend. Then he spoke. "I love your hands. Do you play an instrument?" His voice was smooth and soft, calm in a way that felt practiced. Yes, a little," I answered, barely hearing my own words. "A pianist," he said, moving his fingers gracefully in the air. "Pianist hands are the most beautiful, so delicate, so easy to break." That should have scared me. It didn't. I told myself I was nervous, that I was imagining things. He kept talking, asking questions, where I studied, what I liked, when I came here. His questions felt too deep, too personal, like he was peeling something open inside me. And still, he never looked nervous, not even a little. Outside, the light was fading. He smiled and said, "The best encounters always happen at night, don't they?" I nodded, uncomfortable. I tried to change the subject. "Aren't you hot wearing all that?" "My skin is very sensitive," he said calmly. I wished someone else would come in. Anyone, but no one did. He stepped closer, put his hand on my shoulder. I noticed the way he walked then, that he moved on his toes, like his heels never touched the ground, almost like he was floating. Up close, the illusion cracked. His dark eye circles weren't makeup. They were real. His skin wasn't healthy pale. It was sickly. His body was too thin. Tight skin stretched over bone. He looked fragile, weak. Then I smelled him, under something medicinal, like ointment. There was another scent, sweet at first, then wrong, rotting. I pulled away and said I had class. I tried to leave. His gloved hand closed around my arm. "I won't hurt you," he said gently. But the charm was gone. His words felt rehearsed, empty. I tried to step around him. He moved fast, cutting me off with unnatural speed. His grip tightened. My vision blurred. My hands shook. "Please," he said, voice breaking in a way that felt fake. "I need company." I pushed his arms away. Damn, when I touched him, he flinched like I'd hurt him. Something moved under his shirt. My hands tingled. Wetness soaked into my skin. I looked down. A dark stain spread across his shirt. Beneath the fabric, something writhed, something alive. I screamed and threw him away from me. He turned his back, stroking his arms lovingly. Two strange bulges pushed outward beneath the fabric. I ran for the door. It was jammed. Panic crashed over me. I shoved it again and again. Nothing. I saw graffiti scratched into the wood. A phone number. A message promising pleasure. Behind me, his voice floated softly. "Where are you going? We're having fun." I screamed for him to stay back. I felt his breath on my neck. His hand crushed my shoulder. I slammed into him and pushed with everything I had. The door burst open. I ran. I turned back once. He stood in the doorway, smiling, watching me, not blinking. When I reached another bathroom, I scrubbed my hands raw. The smell wouldn't leave. That night, I dreamed of blue eyes calling my name, the name I never told him. I never went back to those bathrooms after that day. Not once. The thought alone makes my chest tighten. I don't want to risk seeing that man again. or whatever he really was. Still, questions keep circling in my head, slow and relentless, like flies you can't swat away. Who was he? What did he want from me? Was it really just intimacy? If I hadn't panicked, if I hadn't tried to leave, would it have ended as nothing more than an awkward, forgettable encounter in a filthy bathroom? I hate myself for even thinking that way, but the thought comes back again and again. I tell myself I'm glad nothing happened. I tell myself I escaped something much worse, especially after everything that followed. He had to be human. He touched me. I felt the pressure of his hands, the texture of the gloves, the heat of his breath. And he spoke like a normal person, with pauses and inflections, and he even had a smell. Context aside, there was nothing supernatural about those things, and yet the beauty he carried felt wrong. It was too perfect, too calculated, like bait on a hook, something designed to draw you in, to make you want to touch, to trust, to stay. I never told anyone about that encounter. Not my friends, not my girlfriend, not even someone anonymous online. Reporting it was never an option. What would I even say? That I was cruising in a university bathroom and a strange man grabbed me. I could already hear the silence, see the looks, feel my life collapsing into whispers and judgment. So I kept it to myself. That person, I have to call him that. He was human. 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 I repeated in my head like a prayer, or like writing lines on a blackboard, until the words lose meaning. Would you believe me if I told you that I saw him again a few weeks later? There's a small cinematheque I like to go to. They screen independent and amateur films, the kind that never make it to big theaters. That day they were showing a series of short films, mystery, horror, suspense. I went alone. That kind of cinema is another one of my guilty pleasures. I rarely invite anyone along. My social circle is narrow, rigid, and my mind always jumps straight to the worst outcome. Every action feels like it could lead to social ruin if I'm not careful. The place wasn't crowded, as usual. The concession stand was backed up, also as usual, because someone paid with a large bill, and the cashier didn't have enough change. When it was finally my turn, they took longer than normal to hand me my popcorn. I didn't think much of it at the time. I chose a seat right in the middle of the theater. The room was simple, with red upholstered chairs and a faint smell of dust and butter. I turned off my phone as the lights dimmed. A few people came in late and slipped quietly into their seats. I settled in, hoping I wouldn't fall asleep like I had during another so-called horror screening weeks earlier. Everything felt normal until about halfway through the program. I was fully absorbed in the screen when I felt a slight movement behind me, just enough to make me turn my head. And there he was. The light from the screen washed over his face, and somehow it made him look even more beautiful and more disturbing than before. His blue eyes locked onto mine immediately. His mouth opened slightly, moving as if he wanted to say something, but no sound came out. His hands were hidden among the popcorn and snacks he carried. I couldn't clearly see what he was wearing, but I could tell he was just as covered as before. My body froze. Every instinct screamed at me to get up and leave, to run, to not look back. But he moved faster than I could. No one was sitting next to me, so it was easy for him to slide into the empty seat at my side. I caught a glimpse of the end of his movement, that same strange walk on his toes, quick and light. I heard a faint murmur as he leaned closer. His gloved hand rested on my shoulder, and he whispered softly, "I want to apologize for what happened the other day. I acted without thinking. I'm not used to looking for that." In places like that, I was nervous. His words sounded wrong, too polished, but like something memorized and practiced in front of a mirror. Still, a small part of me wondered if I was overreacting. Was I being paranoid? Had fear twisted my memory? "You come here often, don't you?" he continued. "I've seen you at some of my premieres. It's easy to recognize the few people who show up regularly. You always seem to enjoy it when they torture me on screen." My premieres. The words echoed in my head. I felt confused, almost dizzy. Then it clicked. That strange sense of familiarity from the bathroom. I had seen him before, on screen. I just hadn't recognized him right away. His films blurred together in my memory, like so many others in the same genre. Sometimes one horror short looks just like the next. Despite myself, curiosity crept in. I stayed tense, watching him from the corner of my eye. But I kept looking at the screen, too. I tried to figure out which short film he would appear in. After each one ended, I told myself the same lie. "This is the last one. I'll leave after this, just one more. Why don't you run? Get up. Go." And yet I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe his presence had that same snake charmer effect as before. Maybe I was frozen by fear. Maybe some part of me wanted answers. He didn't say another word until he appeared on screen. In the film, a group of sadists drove metal angel wings into his back while he screamed. The sound was awful, raw, and desperate. The kind of scream that makes your stomach turn. That's when I understood why I hadn't recognized him immediately. On screen, he always looked worse. Gaunter. More broken. Like a different version of himself. When the short ended, he stood up suddenly. "I don't like that one," he said flatly. "I'm leaving. Keep my snacks." Then he walked away, disappearing into the dark aisle, leaving me sitting there, stunned. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid to leave right away, afraid he might be waiting outside for me. I didn't touch anything he left behind. The sight of the snacks made my stomach churn. I decided to wait until the screening ended and leave with the rest of the audience. I even thought about talking to a few familiar faces, people I recognized from other screenings. We'd exchanged nods or brief comments before. Maybe I could say something about the films, anything, just so I wouldn't walk out alone. I kept turning possibilities over in my head. Then a strange taste filled my mouth. Bitter at first, then sickly sweet. I turned on my phone's flashlight and looked into the bottom of the popcorn bucket. A whitish liquid soaked through the kernels, pooling at the base. My heart dropped. I remembered how long it had taken them to serve me at the counter. Suddenly, everything made sense. It had to have been him. The thought hit me like a wave of nausea. Was he more than just an actor who showed his films there? Was this theater his territory, his hunting ground? I didn't stay to think about it. I stood up and left as fast as I could without drawing attention, my skin crawling, my appetite completely gone. I didn't stop until I was outside, breathing cold air, my hands shaking. I haven't been back since, just for a moment. If this is your first time here, I invite you to subscribe to LURK, the Insomnia Files. This channel is dedicated to real accounts, disturbing encounters, and unexplained moments shared by people who never expected anything to go wrong until it did. New files are released regularly, usually when most people are asleep. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next case when the night feels a little too quiet. Now, back to the story. I was already careful before, but after that, paranoia became part of my daily life. The worst part wasn't the fear itself, but the fact that I had no one I could talk to about it. Even though the second encounter happened in a public place, the weight of the first one never left me. How could I possibly explain who that man was, or how I knew him, without exposing parts of myself I had spent years carefully hiding? Every explanation I imagined ended the same way: disbelief, judgment, and humiliation. Looking back, my lack of reaction should have worried me more than it did. In the bathroom, my hesitation came from attraction at first, until the warning signs became impossible to ignore. In the movie theater, it was curiosity mixed with a false sense of safety. It was public. There were people around us. Others could see his strange way of walking, the way he seemed to glide instead of step. I told myself that meant nothing bad could happen. Then there was the popcorn, soaked with that liquid, and the illusion shattered completely. For days after that night, I could barely eat. The memory of that taste, bitter and sweet at the same time, made my stomach turn. The moment I realized what was at the bottom of the popcorn bucket, I rushed to the bathroom and vomited until my throat burned. I ran out of the theater, shaking, and didn't sleep at all that night. I stayed awake, checking my breathing, my pulse, every small sensation in my body, waiting for something to go wrong, ready to call emergency services at the slightest sign. Nothing happened. Whatever that substance was, it didn't poison me. That almost made it worse. Since then, I haven't set foot in a movie theater. I haven't touched popcorn either. Just the smell of it makes my stomach clench. As for the man, he remained a mystery. I tried to look him up online. I knew he appeared in short films and small roles, the kind no one talks about and no one reviews. There was almost nothing about him. No interviews, no clear filmography, and yet he moved through that cinematheque like he belonged there, like the place was an extension of himself. That alone should have scared me more than it did. I kept asking myself the same questions. If he really had poured that substance into my popcorn, how did I know? Why was I so sure? Was it just my imagination feeding on fear? Or was my body reacting to something my mind hadn't fully accepted yet? A week later, I got my answer. That morning started like any other. I took a hot shower before heading to my part-time job. The water felt good, relaxing, and for a moment I thought maybe everything was finally settling down. Then I soaped my lower back. When I dragged the brush across my skin, a sharp pain shot through me and I cried out. An intense itch followed immediately, spreading fast. I twisted awkwardly to look at myself in the mirror. My back was red and swollen, covered in clusters of small welts. Where I had scraped myself, the skin was broken, bleeding, and oozing a yellowish pus. It looked angry, infected. The sight made my stomach drop. In the days before that, I had already noticed a few small pimples and mild itching. There had been some rashes, too, but nothing that seemed serious. I told myself it was stress, maybe an allergy. Seeing my back like that destroyed any sense of calm I had left. I tried not to panic. They were just welts, I told myself. Skin problems happen. On my way to work, I stopped at a pharmacy and bought an ointment, something the pharmacist recommended for rashes and irritation. I work at a dessert shop, selling bread, cakes, and pastries, and I didn't want to miss my shift unless I absolutely had to. That day, one of our regular customers came in early. He was an older man who had ordered glazed rolls for his grandson's birthday party. I went into the back room to get his order. The moment I stepped inside, cockroaches scattered across the floor and over the trays. The shop had always had a problem with bugs, but that morning they seemed worse than usual. I grabbed the tray of rolls, but my back started itching so badly that I dropped everything. Pastries hit the floor. I swatted at the insects, my skin crawling with disgust and desperation. I picked the rolls up as best I could, placed them into one of the shop's branded bags, and carried them out to the counter. I handed the bag to the customer with a smile that felt frozen onto my face. Inside, I was fighting the urge to claw at my own skin. I felt ashamed, not because of the mess, but because I knew I wasn't thinking clearly. The itching consumed all my attention. I just wanted the moment to be over so I could scratch again. I barely remember ringing him up properly. Later I realized the register was short that day. As soon as he left, I rushed to the back room and applied the ointment I had bought. It did nothing. The itching didn't slow down at all. Oh, and if anything, it felt worse. I leaned against the wall, breathing hard, seriously considering telling my supervisor I needed to leave and go to the emergency room. The front door opened. I hurried back to the counter before my supervisor could say anything. At that moment, it was just the two of us in the shop, or so I thought. Almost as if he had been waiting for that exact moment, the man appeared for the third time. The instant I saw him, I knew this wasn't coincidence. Not the first encounter, not the second, and certainly not this one. Anger flared up through the fear. I wanted to yell at him, to demand answers, maybe even to hit him. But my supervisor had spent the entire morning checking the display cases for cockroach eggs and had stepped out just minutes earlier to buy cleaning supplies. We were alone. He was dressed in dark clothes again, his body fully covered. He looked at me with an expression that resembled concern, but it felt staged, like an actor rehearsing a role. He moved his hands toward his back, mimicking the exact spot where my skin burned and itched, as if he knew precisely what I was going through. Strangely, it didn't feel unbelievable that my condition was connected to him. It felt obvious. Before I could say a word, he reached into his pocket and pulled out an ointment, the same one I had noticed before, back in the bathroom. He held it out to me and spoke in that calm, carefully controlled voice. "From now on," he said, "you'll need this as much as the air you breathe." Then he turned and walked out, leaving me standing there with my heart pounding and my hands shaking. The welts didn't stop. They spread. Nothing I tried helped. Creams, pills, home remedies, nothing slowed the itching or the pain. My clothes rubbed against my skin and caused the welts to burst, staining fabric with blood and pus. I started wearing dark clothes to hide it. Long sleeves, long pants, gloves, anything to keep people from seeing. The only thing that brought relief was the ointment he had given me. At first I refused to use it. The idea of putting something he gave me onto my body made my stomach turn. But after days of constant itching and pain, desperation won. I applied a small amount to one area. The relief was almost immediate. The itching faded, just enough to let me breathe again. Slowly, against my better judgment, I spread it over larger areas. That was when I recognized the smell. The same scent that had clung to him now clung to me, nor the ointment, mixed with the sickly odor of infection, becoming something familiar and wrong. I asked myself again and again what he had done to me. I went to 2 different doctors. They ran tests. They talked about allergies, stress, bacterial infections, autoimmune disorders. They prescribed medications that did nothing. One of them warned that if my condition didn't improve, hospitalization might be necessary. Within weeks, I barely slept. I barely ate. I lost weight rapidly. Dark circles formed under my eyes. My skin turned pale. The welts spread further, forcing me to cover myself even more. I buttoned my shirts all the way up. I wore gloves even indoors. I avoided mirrors, but when I did look, I barely recognized myself. I was becoming him. I dressed like him. I scratched like him. I smelled like him. People stared. I was confused and concerned. My parents asked questions I avoided. My girlfriend looked at me like she didn't know who I was anymore. Friends whispered, careful not to say too much. Doctors kept testing. I kept pretending everything was fine. Even the soles of my feet became covered in painful welts. Every step hurt. They burst when I walked. So without thinking, I began to lift my feet differently, putting weight on the balls of my feet, walking almost on tiptoe, just like him. And that's when I realized I wasn't just afraid of social death anymore. I was afraid that whatever he was, I was slowly becoming it too. By then, the biggest problem in my life was time. Time was pressing in on me from every side. How long could I keep hiding what was happening to my body? How long could my skin take the pain, the itching, the infections? How long before my body simply gave up? And maybe the most terrifying question of all was how long the ointment would last. I searched everywhere. Pharmacies, medical supply stores, online catalogs, obscure forums. I spent nights scrolling through pages of creams, salves, antibiotics, antifungals, experimental treatments. Nothing came close. The man hadn't made it easy either. The ointment he gave me came in a cheap, unlabeled plastic bottle. It could have held anything before: soap, mouthwash, ketchup, cleaning liquid. The cream inside was pale, almost off-white, thick but smooth, with no identifying smell beyond that now familiar mix of medicine and rot. It could have been anything. My doctors dismissed it immediately. The general practitioner said it was probably a standard over-the-counter cream, and that any relief I felt was psychological. The dermatologist nodded along and suggested stress was amplifying my symptoms. Neither of them believed me when I said nothing else worked. I felt cornered, trapped in a body that was slowly turning against me, dependent on a stranger whose presence felt like a curse. And so, I made a decision that, looking back, feels both desperate and inevitable. I would have to see him again. No matter the risk, no matter the fear. I needed answers, and I needed more of that ointment. This time I told myself I wouldn't freeze. I wouldn't let his voice or his presence disarm me. And I would confront him directly. What more could he take from me at this point? The first place I returned to was the bathroom where everything had started. Walking down that corridor again filled me with a mix of anger, shame, and helplessness. I hated that this place still existed, unchanged, while my life had fallen apart. I hated watching other students pass by, laughing, healthy, unaware. For a brief, ugly moment, I felt envy so sharp it scared me. I imagined just for a second what it would be like if they could feel what I felt. The thought disgusted me as quickly as it came. Nothing happened. I went back once, then again, 3 days in a row. The bathroom stayed empty, silent, filthy and forgotten, just like before. The only thing that changed was the level of ointment in my bottle, dropping lower every day. I could almost feel a countdown ticking inside my chest. With no other options left, I went to the second place tied to him, the Cinematheque. I walked there with a purpose this time. Not fear, not curiosity, determination. I had sworn I would never return, but that promise meant nothing compared to the panic clawing at me every morning when I woke up, itching and bleeding. I entered the building and went straight to the counter. My hands were sweating inside my gloves. I told the attendant a lie I had practiced in my head. I said I was looking for that actor, that he had offered me work on one of his projects after a screening, but we hadn't exchanged contact information. The attendant looked me up and down, slow and deliberate, his eyes lingering on my clothes, my gloves, the way I stood. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he picked up his phone and typed something. I assumed it was a message. Minutes passed, each second stretched painfully. Finally, he smiled in a way that made my skin crawl. "All set," he said. "Our angel can see you now. Are you his new little angel?" I opened my mouth to protest, then realized it was useless. I forced myself to stay calm. "He works here?" I asked instead. "Not exactly," the attendant replied. "He rents the back studio, has for a long time." He went on without me asking. He said the man was working on another film where he would play an angel again. He mentioned that no one really knew where the funding came from or what the man did for a living. Something scientific, maybe. A researcher, a lab, a pathogen center. He wasn't sure. Then he leaned in slightly and lowered his voice. "He's a strange one. Trust me. The farther away I stay from him, the better." That should have been my warning, but I nodded, thanked him, and followed his directions to the back door. I hesitated there, my hand hovering over the handle. A dozen thoughts collided in my head. Should I leave? Call someone? The police? No. That would destroy everything. My reputation, my privacy, my life. And besides, if he knew I was here, why had he agreed to see me? I stepped through the door. The corridor beyond was lit with red bulbs. The light made everything look wrong, unreal. My heart started racing, and for a brief moment I almost turned around and ran. The red light made me feel exposed, like my thoughts were bleeding out through my skin. Photographs lined the walls, film stills, scenes I recognized. I stopped and studied them one by one. There he was, smiling. He was wearing angel wings, on a set. In older photos, he looked radiant, unreal in his beauty. In newer ones, something was clearly wrong. His face looked thinner, his skin dull, his eyes tired. I finally remembered his films. I'd seen them before, but the makeup, the wings, the lighting had hidden how much he'd changed. In the films, he always looked older than he did in person. I reached the fourth door on the right. My hands shook as I turned the knob slowly. Inside my pocket, I tightened my grip on a small knife. I didn't plan to use it. I just needed to feel less helpless. The room was white, painfully white, clean in a way that felt unnatural. The side walls were covered with images of eyes, staring in every direction. I even recognized a famous painting among them. In the center of the room, with his back to me, stood the man. But he wore a dark robe, and from his back rose enormous wings. I couldn't tell what they were made of. I couldn't tell how they were attached. Cold sweat ran down my spine. "Welcome, Michael," he said calmly. That broke something in me. I stepped inside and demanded answers. I told him to stop pretending, to stop treating this like a movie. I demanded to know what he had done to me. He didn't move. He didn't react. As I approached him, my eyes dropped to the floor. His feet were bare. Bloody footprints marked the white surface behind him. I stopped. The knife slipped from my hand back into my pocket. My courage drained away. "Why did you do this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What do you want from me? Why me? I've never even seen you before." He corrected me gently. "Don't call me that," he said. "Gabriel. It sounds better." He turned around slowly. His expression was calm, almost kind. "You're singing," he said. "Your solo at the church last year. So pure, so devoted. You were perfect, an angel, someone who could keep a secret." He smiled. "The right angel," I snapped. I told him he was delusional. I accused him of stalking me, of planning all of this. He didn't deny it. He didn't react at all. "My angel loves the world," he said softly. "But don't worry. Your purity will be restored. Thanks to you, I am almost free." Then he opened his robe. What I saw nearly broke me. His body was covered in open sores, welts bursting and laking blood and pus. His skin was peeling away. Beneath it, larvae writhed and crawled. The smell was overwhelming, sweet and rotten, alive. "We are the raw material," he said calmly, holding out a jar of ointment. "This is what you came for." He walked toward me, each step leaving bloody prints. He offered me the container. I took it because I had no choice. My skin erupted with itching again, violent and unbearable. I ran. I don't remember how I left. I don't remember the hallway. I only remember running. At home, I stared at myself in the mirror. My skin was worse. My body was changing. And one thought, terrifying and comforting at once, settled into my mind. Number one, I won't be the only one to live with this. Hello. I hope you're doing well. If you've stayed with me this far, and I appreciate that more than I can put into words, you'll notice that I'm trying to slow down now. I'm setting the drama aside, at least a little, and speaking more calmly. Not because things have improved in any meaningful way, but because panic gets exhausting after a while. This is where we are now. This is the present. The ointment still works. That is the strange, almost absurd truth of it. It doesn't cure anything. It doesn't stop what's happening to me. It simply softens the edges. It dulls the pain, quiets the itching, slows the tearing and the crawling, just enough that I can function. My skin breaks down. Larvae appear. My body struggles and rebuilds itself. And then the cycle begins again, over and over. I sometimes laugh when I think about it, not because it's funny, but because the alternative is screaming. There are no charms involved, no rituals, no prayers whispered in the dark, no holy water, no iron, no symbols. Just an ordinary unlabeled ointment, made from the very infection destroying me. The raw material, as Gabriel called it. I haven't seen him again. Not since that day in the studio. I don't know where he went, or what freedom means to something like him. Maybe he shed his body entirely. Maybe he found another vessel. Maybe he finally disintegrated into whatever he was becoming. I try not to think about it too much. Thinking about Gabriel makes my skin itch even when the ointment is working. The pain is more manageable now, but nothing can fully offset the disgust. The awareness of my own body has become constant, intrusive. I feel every movement under my skin, every tight spot where something might break through. I dress carefully. Dark clothes, always. Long sleeves buttoned all the way up, even when it's hot. High collars, scarves, gloves. I look like a well-behaved boy from another decade, the kind your parents would trust without question. Neat, modest, inoffensive. No one looks twice. That's the goal. So far, I've managed to keep the infection contained. It hasn't spread past my knees, my fingers, my scalp. I don't know if that's luck or timing, or some instinct I don't fully understand yet. I can still pass for healthy. Tired, maybe. Thin. A little withdrawn. But nothing alarming. No one recoils. No one asks the wrong questions. And yet the world keeps moving. That's the part I still haven't learned how to accept. While my body rots and rebuilds itself in secret, people laugh, fall in love, complain about trivial things, celebrate birthdays. Life continues as if nothing is wrong. I know that's how it's always been. I know suffering doesn't stop the clock. Still, it feels obscene sometimes. Sorry. I said I'd keep the drama to a minimum. I'm still working at the dessert shop. I never quit. I couldn't afford to, and part of me didn't want to. There's something comforting about routine. about following steps and recipes that don't change. I've gotten better at it, too. Good enough that my supervisor trusts me with more responsibility. I help with frostings now, decorations, finishing touches, the details people remember. There's a regular customer we all like, an older man, polite, always smiling, always ordering in advance. He came in last week to place an order for today, a birthday cake for his wife. The whole family was going to be there, he said. Children, grandchildren, a happy event. He seemed genuinely excited. I made the frosting myself. White base, red lettering. Happy birthday, Martha. Simple flowers piped around the edges. Traditional, clean. The kind of cake no one questions. The bitterness of the frosting balanced with flavoring, just the way people like it. Familiar, comforting. When the time came to box it up, I noticed something. A small movement near one of the letters. A tiny larva, barely visible, peeking out from the frosting. I froze for a moment. Then I sighed, the way you do when you find a hair in your food or a crack in a plate. I took the cake back into the refrigerator and removed it carefully. I need to be more attentive, more precise. Mistakes like that draw attention. When I handed the cake to the customer, I smiled. "Thank you for choosing us," I said. "Please give my regards to your wife." He thanked me and left, carrying the box carefully, as if it held something precious. When the door closed behind him and I was alone in the shop, something inside me loosened. I took off my gloves, then my shirt. I stretched slowly, savoring the feeling of air against my skin. For a moment, the pain faded into the background. I turned on the radio and began to move. I danced, not wildly, not recklessly. Slow steps, careful turns. Movements I remembered from an art class I took years ago, back when my body was uncomplicated. I try to stay coordinated, even though friction hurts now, even though every movement carries risk, and the desire to feel free outweighs the discomfort. I imagine wings at my back, urging me forward, lifting me just enough that my feet barely touch the ground. I touch my chest and feel a strip of skin come loose. It doesn't stop me. I peel it away gently, almost fondly, and hold it under my nose like a mustache. Larvae wriggle along its edge. Disgusting, yes, but also strange and familiar. Functional in its own way. I laugh, quietly. I know this moment won't last. I know there will come a day when I won't be able to hide anymore, when the ointment won't be enough, when my body will demand something I can't give. Until then, I take these small freedoms where I can find them. And you, dear reader, if you're still here, it means these stories didn't just pass through you. They stayed. Every file you heard tonight was shared by real people. Real fear, real uncertainty, real moments where something felt wrong, or almost did. And the most disturbing part, most of these stories don't end with answers. They end with silence, with questions, with the feeling that whatever was there might still be. If you want to keep exploring the cases that don't let go, subscribe to LURK, the Insomnia Files. There are many more files waiting, and not all of them close before it's too late.